This is the Coaching Leader Podcast, a podcast about coaching, leadership, and leading through coaching. And here's your host, Scott Gress.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Coaching Leader Podcast. Today, we're pleased to welcome the Rev Dr William Utech. He's been a pastor. He's spent a lot of years at Concordia Seminary in St. Louis, and also worked with a lot of congregations and a lot of ministries as a mission executive in the Minnesota South District. So we're really pleased to have him as a guest and to share his experience and wisdom with us, and a laugh or two along the way. Be sure to hold on until the end of this first part of the interview because we're going to give you an update about lcmscoaching.com, a network of coaches within the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod. So here's our interview with the Reverend Dr. William Utech. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Coaching Leader. And today we are blessed to welcome Reverend Dr. William Utech. Hi, William. How are you?
Scott, I'm great. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm blessed to be chatting with you today. So you are talking to us from Minnesota, and I'm in South Florida, where we're praying that Hurricane Lee definitely takes a turn north. But and you're enjoying a little bit of fall, you were telling me.
Yeah, the weather here took a definite turn towards fall. We went from the high 80s to the high 60s here for not too long ago, and it is God's way of reminding us here in the Great White North that we do indeed get 4 seasons, some of which are longer than others.
Well, sometimes you have to pay very close attention in South Florida to notice the changes. Well, let me tell our listeners a little bit about you. You're an 85 graduate of Concordia Seminary, where you also received an STM, and then a Doctor of Ministry from Covenant Theological Seminary. You spent a lot of years as a pastor and a professor of theology at your alma mater and mine, Concordia Concordia Seminary in St. Louis. 17 years plus, was it?
Yeah, it was a good run, good long run.
Okay. And then mission executive there in Minnesota for 9+ years, and even been nominated. Yeah, I'm going to bring it up. Even been nominated for seminary president, and was it vice president of the synod, or was it president of synod?
It was one of the vice presidency spots, the upper Midwest or whatever that one is. Yeah, that was a surprise and an honor.
Sure.
Of course, nothing came of it, but it was still a surprise and an honor.
Yeah, and certainly warranted. Well, how did you get into this line of work anyway? What's your background that got you into pastoral ministry and education, etc.?
Well, as is often the case, if you grow up and you have a great pastor yourself, that becomes a very attractional thing.
Mm.
And my pastor, and yes, to a certain degree, my parents were pushing me in this direction. It wasn't until I was a senior in high school that I actually went to visit Concordia University in St. Paul. And the people that I met there and the experiences I had in that short visitation weekend convinced me that I should at least start down the track of pastoral ministry, and I'd keep going until God made it clear I shouldn't keep going anymore. And
Okay.
and he never did. So your undergraduate leads to seminary, and which led to a little postgraduate work, as you mentioned earlier, which led to our first call, which was up here in Minnesota in Bloomington.
Okay.
It was a great first call. We were very blessed to go to Holy Emmanuel Lutheran Church in Bloomington, Minnesota, and really, for a new candidate, it was a soft landing spot. The congregation that you think is so hard when you're a brand new pastor really wasn't that hard, and was ready to do some new things by the time Lori and I arrived there. my predecessor had taken the call to be the pastor of that congregation the day after I was born.
No kidding.
So he had been there for 28 years and then had retired. And the congregation, they were blessed by his ministry, of course, but had gotten to the point where now it was time for something new and something different, and they all realized it, or most of them realized that, and we were fortunate to step into that kind of situation, and we're there for 9 years and saw the Lord blessed our efforts. We added some new ministries that actually blessed people in the community and reached them, that communicated the gospel to them in ways that they could hear and understand. And God, of course, God uses that to grow his church, and he did. So we were blessed to see that. And then one day, out of complete blue, I got a call from Dr. John Johnson, who was at that time the president of Concordia Seminary, and he told me my name was on a list. And one thing led to another, and then I was on the faculty at the seminary, and saw early on that that the seminary was a great academic institution. My colleagues were and are the wisest men in their fields of study that you could find anywhere on earth. But like any other academic institution, it was kind of disconnected from what's going on in the world and what's going on in the rank and file church. And I saw my role as trying to remind them that God has a mission, that he has set us all on, that we are blessed to be a part of and called to, and seminary should be cognizant of that as it makes decisions and calls faculty and puts together curriculum and raises up new leaders for the churches, the congregations of the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod.
Yeah. So, by the way, where did you do your vicarage?
Oh, I did my vicarage, and it was the best vicarage somebody could have, in Parma, Ohio, which is a suburb of Cleveland. My supervisor was Dr. Al Marcis, who was for years and years and years, and was at that time the president of the SELC district. And because Al was a district president and a full-time pastor, I mean, the SELC to this day does not have a full-time district anybody. So even the president was a full-time pastor, and so the district supplied him with a vicar. The district paid for a vicar, and I was blessed to be one of Al's vicars. And because he was so busy, it was a rich experience for me. I think I preached more than most vicars, and I really got a good taste of what it was like to be part of a congregation and to help run a congregation. And it solidified in my mind that I was in the right place doing the right things. And I have to say that Al was very good at doing that for all of his vicars. He showed us that you could be you. You could be the sanctified you that God had made, and he could use you in his mission and in his ministry just the way that you are. And that was priceless.
Oh yeah, what a great way to model leadership for a student going out on his internship, that he gave you a lot of responsibility because he was a busy man, and he said you can do it. Fantastic.
Yeah, the leash was pretty long. and the correction was pretty gentle overall.
Uh-huh.
and there's a fair amount of that needed to happen.
No kidding.
But it was awesome. And uh, this man, Al Marcis, was missional, from the tip of his head to the top of his head to the tip of his toes. He was missional before missional was really a word.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And that just kind of rubbed off on me. He says, congregations aren't there for themselves. They're there for the world, for the sake of the world, starting where in the community that God has placed them. Hide it under a
Wow.
bushel. No, I'm going to let it shine. And that's who he was. That's who Al was. And uh, he is he's enjoying Jesus' company. And
Ah,
and I'll go to my grave thankful that I had that experience.
that's wonderful. I'm just getting chills listening to you talk about him, that we don't exist for ourselves. It's such a contrast to, well, maybe it's to put it kindly, maybe that's a reaction to seeing the congregation shrink and close, that we kind of circle the wagons and, instinctively look out for ourselves. But the counterintuitive is the solution, as modeled by your supervisor there, your bishop
Oh
there.
yeah. Yeah, and in every day and age, how a congregation is engaged in mission, is intentionally engaged in mission every day and age. I mean, that's the how is going to change a little bit, right? Because our communities change and people change and the needs of a community can change. But that it is intentionally engaged in the mission of God is uh, not a question at all. That's why we're here, right?
Yeah, yeah. And speaking of change, I was just going to ask you, after a wonderful career, not that you're through, but you've seen a lot of changes over the years, from your education to pastoral ministry and seminary, mission executive, et cetera. Um, what stands out for you as some of the changes over those years? Significant sort of
Well,
things.
as I think is if you're looking at at our church body as congregation, if you're looking at a congregational level, I think that it has become more challenging for our congregations to become intentionally engaged in the mission of God because in many ways they perceive that the world around them is to the
Hmm.
church and to them. They see lifestyles and they hear things on the news and in the media that are contrary to the way that our people grew up, contrary to the Word of God. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about this. This is a lot of what's going on in the world around us, and the world around our congregation is just plain wrong. And our people don't really know how to react to that, except maybe to hunker down, right?
Sure.
The whole uh, 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 post Christendom reality that our congregations that grew up within Christendom, um, that whole thing is a conundrum that many local congregations are still wrestling with. Uh, I was when I was growing up in Merrill, Wisconsin, on Good Friday afternoon, every store closed. Every store in town
No kidding.
closed at 3 o'clock.
Huh.
Yeah, and I when I was pastoring here, back in the uh, in the mid to late '80s and early '90s. I mean, I would go on hospital calls and I could actually have there was a clergy parking spot. And I could put my little pass on there up on the dashboard, and I could use the clergy parking spot, which was right next to the door, and you know shades of a former paradigm, and that all that is gone.
Yeah, I'm laughing because The same was true in South Florida. But as the years went on, there'd be more people who would just sort of appropriate that parking spot rather than just say it was for you, the clergy person. Uh, and there was even a golf course that gave discounts to clergy.
Uh-huh.
And I hadn't been there for a while. And I showed up one day and they go, "What are you talking about?" And I thought, okay, Scott, don't even ask.
Yeah.
It's gone.
it, it's no longer on the radar screen. It's no longer, and so our people were used to having Wednesday nights, right? Every Wednesday night it's church night,
Yeah,
and it's not church night any longer. Now it's up here. It's that's when we have hockey practice.
there you go.
That's when we do this or we do that, or we schedule the kids, and weekends are for tournaments, and when the church is no longer at the center of society, after it's been sort of used to being at the center of society, that is a bitter pill for our people to swallow, especially our more mature, older, faithfuler members to swallow.
Yeah.
And they get angry about that. They do.
Oh,
And
it hurts. Yeah.
it hurts in so many ways, and they get angry, and they wonder, why has this changed, or how did this change so fast? And if you're not careful, you can spend a lot of time being angry and bitter, and stop caring about the people around you who who, whom Jesus loves.
Yeah. What a great point. And I'm looking over to my left. I'm going to grab a book off my side desk here. As you're talking, I'm just remembering a conversation I had with Rick Richardson. I don't know if you're familiar with this book, You Found Me.
I'm not. Tell me more.
Yeah, he's what is he? The director of Billy Graham School of Evangelism at Wheaton College. And we were having a conversation, sometime during the pandemic about coaching, which is kind of my thing. And I read his book that he so graciously sent me, and he does a lot of good homework and studying that and research that basically says, yeah, our perception is that people aren't open to the gospel because they're persistent in sin and change lifestyles, et cetera, et cetera. But he argues in this that people are surprisingly open and willing to have a conversation with you. And as long as we are of that posture of serving and building a relationship and listening,
Mm-hmm.
um, rather than trying to arm wrestle them and winning an argument. But Rick Richardson, You Found Me. Just thought I'd throw that out there.
We had this discussion any number of times when I would go visit congregations that were wondering, what can we do, what should we do, and they had tried any number of things, and the difference that between the church and the post-church paradigm is, our people used to do VBS, right? And at the end of Vacation Bible School, they would put on a carnival, or and they'd rent the bouncy houses, and they do all this thing, and it would be free food, and they'd invite, of course, the children and their parents and their grandparents and anybody else who wanted to come, and we try to get contact information from these people, and our congregational members would throw themselves into this, and it was a difficult thing. It was a hard thing, but they threw themselves into it, and they pulled it off, and they did a really, really good job, and there were lots of kids and lots of people there, and our people met some new folks, and we got some information, and then Friday night came to an end, and Sunday rolled around, and no one who attended the carnival showed up in church on Sunday. And then people would get angry.
Mm.
They get angry and upset at the mission field around them because nobody showed up. And the answer to that is years and years ago, you put on a VBS carnival to get community people into your church, and now you do it to get church people into your community. And that's how things need to go forward, right?
Yeah, yeah. So on that note, just kind of thinking out loud, what are some of the antidotes to, shifting those perspectives or assumptions about how you get people to the community? And no, it's you get in their community,
Right.
What are some of those antidotes? How does that happen? What's sort of the practical lessons there?
Well, one of the things that when I was serving at Concordia Seminary, I was half-time teacher, half-time director of the resident field education program, right?
Mm-hmm.
And during that time, it was field ed's responsibility to get all of our first year students a significant cross-cultural experience, right? Where they were taken out of their home culture and they spent time in a place surrounded by people that were different from them.
Yeah,
And you could do that to a certain degree in the greater St. Louis area. You
sure.
could. But what we found was if our students gave up and one of their academic breaks, and we could send them off into a different culture, hopefully in a different country, maybe on a different continent, right? For an immersion experience, that had a salutary and lasting impact on the way that they learned theology and thought about mission and ministry.
Mm.
Now you give them new lenses to learn theology through and to reflect on what God is saying in His Word. I brought that experience to the Minnesota South District, and we started making it possible for rural and small town congregations to have ongoing mission partnerships in other countries. And I'm proud to say that my home congregation, Trinity Lutheran in Medford, Minnesota, was one of the first congregations to try this out. The pastor and the chairman of the congregation accompanied me on a kind of like a fact finding or research trip that lasted the better part of 2 weeks. And after that time, they decided that they could partner with a small Guatemalan village called Taguani and work with the leaders down there. And so the time came, and we worked with Central American Lutheran Mission Society, and they signed a 5-year kind of partnership agreement that said we'd send down one team every year for 5 years in a row to make it, so that those people, we had opportunity for those people to become our friends. And the first time we went down, we took a group of 5 or 6 people down from the congregation, maybe more, and just to put on a sports camp for the kids in the village. And when you're taken out of your comfortable surroundings and you're thrown into an immersion experience where everyone is speaking different and living different and eating different and acting different, now you have to start listening more and asking for help more, and just we're all missionaries but on the basis of our baptism, but you become a better missionary in that kind of situation. And I have to say that over the next 5 years, my congregation grew and matured in ways that just have continued to warm my heart. And they figured out that if we can be missionaries down there, certainly we can be missionaries here. And it's the kind of thing that it's the kind of experience that flicks that switch among congregational leaders, and they just see who they are and what they are and why they are a lot more clearly. And I'll never forget the day that I went out for breakfast with my pastor, and this is after we had a voters meeting, and I never attend those because I don't have to now. And and he missed elections. He said, yeah, the six of the eight people on our church council have been to Guatemala. You think that's going to make a difference?
Absolutely. And so just to ask you a little bit, to be a little bit more explicit, is the shift that they're more willing then to volunteer, they're more willing to give of themselves, they're more willing to speak of their faith? Can you get into that a little bit more? What are the real shifts that you noticed?
They're more willing to observe and to listen to what's going on around them, and how God has blessed them to be a blessing in that. And just there's a higher level of willingness, there's a higher level of confidence in their baptism and in the Holy Spirit, who always goes with them into these situations. There's a humility that learn and that stays with them. That it's Americans want to fix things, and they want to fix things by throwing money at it, but that isn't always the best way. And that they learn how to avoid building independency into situations, and they just become better tools in God's hands for bringing the gospel to people who need it in word and deed. So yeah, that's fantastic. And sort of what I'm hearing then is that they're not so apt to flip to their assumptions that they've had maybe in our culture. This is who I'm talking to, this is what their needs are, this is what I can do for them or not. And so they're more willing, as you say, to listen, to sort of sort those things out with more of a discerning heart and a servant heart, I suppose. A trusting heart that God in his time will open doors. It's not up to me. And when it's not up to me, then there's room for the Spirit to move. Yeah. Beautiful stuff.
Thank you, Dr. Utech, and thank you for listening to part 1 of our conversation with Dr. William Utech. And while we're here, let me tell you a little bit about lcmscoaching.com. It's for people who are interested in coaching, curious about coaching, for coaches, for people who are looking for a coach, or for coaches who are looking for clients and ways to interact with one another. We're excited about some of the conversations that are going on about coaching in the Lutheran Church. We're excited about the possibility of being an affiliate to Coach Approach Ministries' online self-paced courses, where we can offer them to our network for a discount. And we're looking forward to ways we can connect with one another over the network. And by the way, if you'd like to help with that, if you have some particular gifts in that regard, let us know. Reach out to us at scottgress@me.com or scottgress.com. So thanks for listening, and we look forward to being with you next time on The Coaching Leader.